The blanket trembled in Samuel's weathered hands as he stared down at what lay beneath. The barn door creaked behind him, letting in the last amber light of evening, but he couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The words she'd whispered, "Please, don't touch me," still hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire. 2 hours earlier, Samuel Morrison had been checking his cattle when he heard the sound. Not quite human, not quite animal, a keening that made his chest tight with recognition he didn't want to claim. He'd found her collapsed behind the water trough, wrapped in a torn cavalry blanket, her dark hair matted with blood that wasn't entirely her own. She couldn't have been more than 16, maybe 17. Comanche, from the beadwork still clinging to her torn dress. Her left arm hung at an unnatural angle, and when she'd opened her eyes the color of storm clouds, she'd flinched away from his shadow like he was death itself. "Easy," he'd murmured, the same voice he used with spooked horses. "Easy now." That's when she'd spoken those words that cut him deeper than any blade. "Please, don't touch me." The way she'd said it, broken and hollow, told him everything he needed to know about what she'd endured before finding his land. Samuel had seen too much in his 43 years. The war. The aftermath. The things men did when they thought no one would remember their names. But this girl, this child, carried something in her eyes that made his hands shake as he'd lifted her, careful as holding water, and carried her to the barn. Now, as he peeled back the blanket to assess her wounds, his breath caught. Not from the cuts and bruises he'd expected. Not from the clearly broken arm or the fever burning through her small frame. It was the scars. Old ones, crisscrossing her back and shoulders like a map of suffering. Recent ones, still healing, that spoke of systematic cruelty. And there, burned into the soft skin just below her collarbone, was a mark he recognized with sick certainty. The brand was crude but unmistakable, 3 interlocking circles. The same mark he'd seen on stolen cattle. The same mark that belonged to the Donovan brothers, who ran their operation 50 miles north and asked no questions about where their livestock originated. Samuel's stomach turned to stone as understanding crashed over him. This wasn't just a Comanche girl who'd escaped some raid or battle. This was property. Stolen, branded, broken property that someone would come looking for. And they'd kill anyone who stood between them and what they considered theirs. The girl stirred as Samuel set down his medical supplies, her eyes fluttering open with the wariness of a trapped animal. She tried to push herself up with her good arm, but collapsed back against the hay with a small cry. "Don't," Samuel said quietly, not moving closer. "You're safe here." Her laugh was bitter as winter wind. "Safe." The word came out like a curse. "No such thing. Not for me." Samuel knelt 5 feet away, close enough to help, far enough to let her breathe. "That brand on your chest. How long?" She studied his face in the lamplight, searching for something. 3 months. Maybe 4. Time runs together. The Donovans. It wasn't a question, and her flinch confirmed what he already knew. Samuel felt something cold and familiar settle in his chest, the same feeling he'd carried through Gettysburg, through the long march home, through the nights when he'd wake up screaming. "They'll come for me." Her voice was steady now, resigned. "They always come. And they'll burn everything." Samuel nodded slowly. He'd heard the stories. Homesteads reduced to ash. Families who'd harbored runaways found with their throats cut. The Donovans didn't just take back what they claimed, they made examples. "How many others?" he asked. "Others? Girls like you. How many?" Her eyes went distant. "I stopped counting at 12. Different ages. Different tribes. Some white girls, too, taken from wagons." She looked at him directly then, and he saw something fierce flicker behind the pain. "They call it a ranch, but it ain't cattle they're raising." Samuel closed his eyes. He'd suspected, but hearing it confirmed made his chest burn with something that might have been rage or might have been shame. Everyone knew. The sheriff, the townspeople, the other ranchers. Everyone knew, and no one spoke of it because the Donovans had money and influence, and a willingness to make problems disappear. "I could take you to town," he said finally. Get you to the missionary folks. They'd send me back. Her voice was flat with certainty. Property has to be returned to its rightful owner. That's the law. Samuel's hands clenched into fists. She was right, and they both knew it. The law was written by men like the Donovans, enforced by men who'd rather look the other way than face uncomfortable truths. Then what? He asked. She met his eyes, and for a moment he saw not the broken child but the woman she might have been, should have been. You let me die here. Clean. On my terms. The words hit him like a physical blow. Outside, his horse whinnied nervously, and Samuel's blood went cold. He'd been so focused on the girl, he hadn't been listening. But horses didn't spook at nothing. Hoofbeats. Multiple riders, moving fast across his land. They'd found her trail. Samuel moved to the barn window, careful to stay in the shadows. 4 riders approached through the darkness, their faces hidden but their intentions clear in the deliberate way they spread out to surround his property. The lead rider sat tall in his saddle, and even in the moonlight Samuel could make out the distinctive silver conchos on his hatband. Marcus Donovan. The eldest brother, and the worst of the 3. How long since you left them? Samuel whispered. The girl had managed to sit up, pressing herself against the far wall. 2 days. Maybe 3. I thought I lost them at the creek. You did good to make it this far. She shook her head. They got dogs. And they know this country better than God himself. Samuel's mind raced through possibilities, each one ending in blood. His rifle hung on the wall near the door, loaded but too far to reach without being seen. His pistol was in the house. The girl couldn't run, couldn't fight, could barely sit upright. The hoofbeats stopped just outside. Morrison! Marcus Donovan's voice carried the casual authority of a man used to being obeyed. We're looking for something that belongs to us. Comanche girl, about 16, with a busted wing. You seen her? Samuel felt the girl's eyes on him, waiting to see what kind of man he truly was. He'd faced this choice before, in different forms. During the war, when Confederate deserters had asked if he'd seen Union sympathizers. After the war, when carpetbaggers had asked about hidden gold. Each time, he'd chosen safety over righteousness, survival over sacrifice. Each time, he'd hated himself a little more. Haven't seen hide nor hair of any Comanche, Samuel called back, stepping into the doorway where they could see him. Been working cattle all day. Marcus chuckled, a sound like nails on slate. That so? Mind if we take a look around? Just to be sure. It wasn't really a question. 2 of the riders were already dismounting, their hands resting easy on their gun belts. Samuel recognized them now, Jake Brennan and Tom Gulliver, men who'd sold their souls so long ago they'd forgotten they ever had them. This is my land, Samuel said, keeping his voice level. And it's late. You boys best move along. Your land. Marcus repeated the words slowly, tasting them. Funny thing about land, Morrison. It only belongs to a man as long as he's breathing to defend it. The threat hung in the air between them like a drawn blade. Samuel's mouth went dry as he calculated odds and angles. 4 men, all armed, all willing to kill. Him, alone, with a broken girl depending on him to be better than he'd ever been before. Behind him, so soft he almost missed it, came the girl's voice. Don't. She was trying to protect him. This child who'd been branded like livestock, who'd endured things that would break grown men, was trying to save him from the consequences of doing what was right. Samuel stepped fully out of the barn, pulling the door shut behind him. Like I said, haven't seen anyone. But you're welcome to search if it'll put your minds at ease. Marcus smiled, and Samuel knew he'd just signed his own death warrant. Much obliged, Marcus said, swinging down from his horse. Jake, you and Tom check the house. Brennan, take the corral. I'll handle the barn. Samuel's heart hammered against his ribs as Marcus approached, spurs ringing against the hard-packed earth. The man was bigger up close, with the kind of casual violence that came from years of taking what he wanted without consequence. You know, Morrison, Marcus said conversationally. I always liked this spread. Good water, decent grazing. Shame if something were to happen to it. Nothing's going to happen to it. That depends entirely on what we find in this barn. Marcus reached for the door handle, and Samuel's hand dropped to his side, fingers flexing. No weapon, no plan, just the sudden clarity that came before death. He'd failed at so many things in his life, but he wouldn't fail this girl. Not tonight. The door swung open. The barn was empty. Samuel blinked, confusion replacing desperation. The blanket lay crumpled where the girl had been, a few drops of blood on the hay, but no trace of her. It was impossible. She couldn't walk, couldn't have moved without help. Marcus stepped inside, examining the scene with predator's eyes. He picked up the blanket, studied the bloodstains, then looked directly at Samuel. Interesting. Told you. Samuel managed. Haven't seen anyone. No, you haven't seen anyone. Marcus folded the blanket carefully, almost reverently. But someone was here. Someone hurt. Someone who bled on your property and then vanished like smoke. Jake and Tom returned from the house, shaking their heads. Brennan jogged back from the corral with the same report. Nothing. No one. Marcus stood in the barn doorway for a long moment, his eyes never leaving Samuel's face. You're either the luckiest son of a bitch in Texas, or you're hiding something that's going to get you killed. Sometimes they're the same thing. That earned Samuel a genuine smile from Marcus, sharp as broken glass. Indeed they are. Boys, mount up. We've got ground to cover before dawn. They left as quickly as they'd come, but Samuel knew it wasn't over. Men like the Donovans didn't give up, they just changed tactics. He waited until the hoofbeats faded completely before calling out to the darkness. You can come out now. A minute passed. Then another. Finally, a small voice came from above. They're really gone. Samuel looked up to see the girl peering down from the hayloft, her face pale with pain and fear. Somehow, with a broken arm and half dead from fever, she'd managed to climb 15 feet of ladder and hide in the shadows above. How? He asked. When you care more about dying clean than dying easy, she said. You find strength you didn't know you had. She started to climb down, and Samuel moved to help her. For the first time, she didn't flinch away from his hands. The girl sat on Samuel's porch as the first light crept over the horizon, her arm properly splinted now, her fever broken. She told him her name was Iona, Eternal Blossom, in her mother's tongue, though she hadn't used it in so long she'd almost forgotten the sound of it. They'll be back, she said quietly. Samuel nodded, whittling a piece of cedar while he watched the sun paint the sky. Probably. But not today. Maybe not tomorrow. And then? Then we'll face whatever comes. The simple certainty in his voice made her look at him differently. Here was a man who'd found his line in the sand and chose to stand on the right side of it, consequences be damned. Why? She asked. You don't know me. Don't owe me anything. Samuel set down his knife and wood, considering the question. Had a daughter once. Would have been about your age now. What happened to her? Fever took her when she was 7. Her and her mother both. He was quiet for a moment. But before she died, she asked me something. Said, Papa, when I'm gone, will you still be good to people who can't be good back to you? I told her yes, but I never really understood what she meant. Until now. Iona felt something loosen in her chest, a knot she'd carried so long she'd forgotten it was there. She sounds wise. Wiser than her old man, that's certain. They sat in comfortable silence as the world woke around them. Samuel's cattle began their morning routine, birds called from the cottonwoods, and somewhere in the distance a coyote sang the sun home. There's a mission in Santa Fe, Samuel said eventually. Run by sisters who ask no questions and remember no names. It's a hard journey, but I'll make it. He looked at her, this girl who'd survived hell and climbed back out by sheer will, and believed her completely. When? She asked. Tomorrow. I'll ride with you as far as the canyon. After that, you'll be on your own, but it's mostly mission territory. Safe as anywhere can be. Iona nodded, then surprised them both by reaching out and touching his hand. Thank you for seeing me as something worth saving. Samuel's throat tightened. Thank you for showing me it's never too late to be the man you're supposed to be. The sun climbed higher, washing the world in gold and promise. In the distance, a hawk circled lazy spirals against the endless sky, riding thermals towards something better, something free. Samuel Morrison watched it fly and smiled.